What we do here is go back.
How's it going, everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of the Lost Media podcast. Today we're looking at an Australian kids show from the 80s. It's through puppetry it was made, and it is an extremely bizarre and very tough to find television show that only has bits and pieces of different episodes that have been found, which is just what we love about filmmaking and shows and just anything Lost Media. When you just get bits and pieces and not full episodes or full movies, that's just the greatest thing ever. I'm joking. No, it's the worst. It's actually painful, especially if you're someone like the person who suggested this topic, which is Jency. His nickname, real name is Sam. Thank you for your suggestion. I love suggestions. Keep them coming in the comments, guys. He has been very frustrated for a long time with trying to find full episodes of this, but it is freaking impossible to find. Similar to me, I've been very frustrated with trying to find my piece of Lost Media. Please, someone send Friday Night Games to me. Gosh. But it's not about Friday Night Games today. It is about the new adventures of Blinky Bill. This was a 1985 puppetry show on ABC TV in Australia. It's an Australian show. And I don't know if it was made in just 1985. I think it was made in the 80s. I don't know the specific years, but I do know that only one full episode out of the 28 has been discovered. And there's clips from a bunch of other episodes. I've got my phone out here with a list of different clips because trying to rattle them off on the top of my head on a podcast are very tough to do. But I will explain a bit of backstory about Blinky Bill. It's actually an Australian icon in terms of television and cartoons for kids. Anyone who grew up in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, mainly the 80s and the 90s, will remember the cartoon and the puppetry show. I'm not really familiar with the puppetry show. I am familiar, though, with the cartoon. I remember that airing a lot more than the puppetry one. It stopped airing by the early 90s. So, you know, it's just one of those very obscure things. This show is actually very ahead of its time. I've got the only full, complete found episode playing behind me. And as you can tell, it's obviously made more, you know, for children's entertainment, for children's television. And shows that are children's television are way more easily lost than regular shows. And that's because kids don't know how to hit the record button when they're watching a show on TV, and adults who are in charge of any show, that's how they become Lost Media, they don't do enough work usually in archiving the show and making sure all episodes are being saved. Even on VHS tapes, this would have been fine to save all of these after every single airing, but no. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough effort in this case, and in a lot of cases, in making sure the show was recorded and the show was saved on a bunch of VHS tapes. And it's a shame because, according to Jency and according to me from what I've seen, this is actually quite groundbreaking for 1985. This is actually quite ahead of its time in terms of how well they were able to make the puppetry work, with obviously humans alongside Blinky Bill as a puppet. And shot on location and like out and about places wouldn't have been that easy as well. When you're trying to control a puppet in like dense bush in Australia and swampland, it's, you know, it's a bit difficult. I'm imagining this episode's called High Water, so that's probably to explain how tough it was to film. Just filming in swamplands. But what has been found is there's two clips from the first episode, Hello Stranger, Goodbye Ranger. They're in 144p. That's my favorite quality option, by the way, guys. There's all sorts of different quality options, but 144p is the best. There's a clip from Rock and Roll Blues, which is season 3. And there's incomplete episodes from episodes Mine 2, Computer Capers, and The Legend of His Own Lunchtime. That is a bizarre title for an episode. There's also clips from Time Flies When You're Feeling Young and Blinky Hits the Jackpot from season 3. And there's also deleted scenes from High Water, Blinky Bill goof tape, and all sorts of stuff. The High Water episode that's playing behind me got actually deleted off YouTube, or it got privated. You never know. These actually might be under copyright, because there's a lot of things in the copyright system that you would not ever think were in the copyright system. But this is probably one of those things that they decided, hey, you know, we don't want people uploading this. We don't want people getting their hands on my intellectual property. This is a very Australian thing with, things like the ABC and Channel 7 in Australia. And they just block it completely. So, look, that's fine. You know, that's okay. It's not fine, actually. It's bullshit. We need all this stuff uploaded. All these classic pieces of Australian TV, whenever I hear about them being just completely fallen to time, especially stuff from the 80s, like, it clearly exists somewhere. It should exist somewhere. It would be in the ABC archives. The archives they have, it definitely is in there. Considering the kind of show it was, I think they have episodes in their vaults. But networks are usually very puckered up tight. They're tight asses when it comes to actually releasing stuff from their vaults and putting in an effort to make something that's especially lost to the public. Because it's not lost media doesn't mean lost media like it's lost entirely. It's lost to public viewing. And I reckon this is one of those cases that is lost to public viewing. Considering one episode out of the 28 that aired, I think it's 28. You can correct me, Jancy. Correct me in the comments, please. That's weak. 1 out of 28. I smell copyright blocking on YouTube when it's that few. And Blinky Bill's a famous icon of Australian cartoons from 90s, early 2000s, 80s. So, and this is it is puppeteering. It is live action, and a lot of those puppeteering shows, especially in Australia from back then, are pretty tough to uncover now. And basically any Australian TV show is now just really tough to find, especially if it aired on the ABC way back then. I was meant to correct, sorry, any Australian kid show is very hard to find because of the aforementioned kids are watching it. Adults aren't trying to archive this stuff. Kids are too young to know how to archive it. So you watch this as a kid and you'll be like, absolutely loving it, watching episodes, maybe recorded off VHS, or family members have recorded episodes, and then you get a bit older and you remember it. You'll be like, oh, I remember watching that show. I want to see clips from it. That'll bring back memories. They don't exist. They don't exist at all. And I'm pretty sure that's why my mate Jancy wants to find this. He wants, the nostalgia trip, and I completely get that. It's the exact same thing with Friday Night Games, and this is why everyone wants to find lost media. They want to uncover something from their childhood that they're just desperate to finally see again, and it is not that easy. It's actually very difficult. So it's definitely one of those shows that it just falls through the cracks somehow, and it's very annoying. Please correct me in the comments, Jancy, or anyone who knows a lot about this show. Please correct me if I missed out anything to do with this show. Yeah. Or if I'm, haven't mentioned something that I really needed to mention, same thing as missing out. Or if I got something wrong to do with this show. Like I said, it is very sketchy. I'm kind of going off the very specifics to do with this show that was sent to me. 28 episodes over 4 years, yeah, there. So not 1985 standalone. That's one of the things. Whenever it's a year, you probably saw this in the recent episode. I had a very cringe moment in my 5 lost movies. Whenever it's a year and I'm doing a continuous recording podcast and I'm trying to remember like years something aired or a specific year something was released, my mind just goes to mush trying to remember specific years. I'm good with footy. It's not footy though. There's maybe we'll do footy lost media. Australian rules football. I'm sure a lot of people would love to see that. They would be obsessed with watching that. Get a ton of good views. But that's pretty much it. He sent me all sorts of different TV spots where clips appear. But yeah, it's one of those bizarre lost cases. I won't be doing this very often for a topic. Only topics that have, like this, like in terms of having a phone out and looking through different things. Only topics that have very specific clips. On this show, I try and do everything off the cuff and in one continuous recording and out of my head only. I don't have a teleprompter. I don't have scripts in front of me. I try to avoid that shit. So if I haven't mentioned anything to do with Blinky Bill that I should have mentioned, the new adventures of Blinky Bill, please, as I said, let everyone know, educate people more about this show, because I am unfortunately not an expert in every piece of lost media. I wish I was, especially Australian lost media, but my knowledge only extends so far. And with this, I just can't believe the fact that there's 1 out of 29. I mean, Friday Night Games is the show I'm looking for. There's 1 out of 10 that's been found. Someone apparently has 4 episodes that still hasn't been sent to me. But 1 out of 28, 1 out of 28 is like, bruh, you can't be serious. That is, I smell someone trying to stop this from being seen from the public because they want to either stop the public from seeing it or find a way to make money out of it. And if they can't make money out of a home media release, then no one's allowed to watch it. That is most shows, believe it or not, guys, that become lost media. If money can't be made out of it and they don't want someone else getting views or getting recognition for uploading it, they just don't release it, and it stays lost for such a long time, potentially forever. I hope this one gets found. I hope more episodes get found, more full episodes instead of just clips. And that's basically all there is to it. Suggest anything in the comments, anything you can think of that's lost media. I'm mainly interested, as I said in the previous episodes, in stuff that is completely lost. This episode is definitely a one-off, probably, because there is, even though there is just 1 episode that's been found, that's why I did it. It's still mostly lost. So it's still not completely lost. I'm more interested in completely lost stuff because then I can do follow-up videos if it gets found, and there's all sorts of ways to do it. Hoo-ha, the whole world works. I don't know what I'm saying. Thanks for watching again, guys. I'll be back with 2 more episodes tomorrow, and then I'm going to take a day off or a couple days off, but I'll be back with more podcasts more often. This has been the Lost Media Podcast. Please subscribe. The end.